Good evening, everyone. I can see people logging in. I'll just give everyone a few moments just to link with us. Hope everyone is well. So let's just, so I'll just say good evening to everyone who's joined us here live, and hello to anyone who is listening on the podcast afterwards. My name is Balaram. I will be your host for this evening. We have got a lovely subject this evening. The title is Beyond Masks, Shedding False Ego in Relationships. So we're going to be having a discussion, myself and my dear friend Mukundha. Yes, he is spotlighted as well. Hi Mukundha, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Just to give everyone a little warning, my wife is using Zoom in the other room. My boy is gaming online, and my daughter is watching probably Netflix. So hopefully my internet stays strong and steady for everyone. Word of warning there, because it is Easter holidays. I wanted to just acknowledge a few people who've maybe got their camera on. Sneha, hello. I see you in the kitchen there. Anyone else who has got the camera on? Elaine. Yes, hi, Elaine. Hey, how are you doing? Hope you're well. Happy for you to just put in the chat, guys, where you're listening in from. Hi, Madhu Kishori. Nice to see you. I like acknowledging people who put their cameras on. It makes me feel like there is life out there. So hi, Jasmine. Okay, Netherlands. Okay, excellent. Tuning in from the Netherlands. That's great. Anyone else? Just keep them coming in. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce our lovely guest. Our guest tonight, Mukundha, is a good friend of mine. I'll probably, instead of giving an introduction, I'd like to probably ask a few things about Mukundha. So I know a few things about Mukundha. I know that he's a poet, a spoken word artist. He's loved hip hop, and then he loves bhakti, and he's into the Bhagavad-gita. So Mukundha, I thought I'd just hand it over to you and just ask you, when did your love for hip hop, poetry, spoken word, when did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, I'm Mukundha, like Balaram mentioned. Well, for me, it started, I remember funny story. I was in year 7. I was about 11 years old, and we had like a whole school talent show. And so during our music lesson, our teacher said, okay, get into groups and, perform something to the whole class, and whoever's the best group will have to perform to the whole school. So I think at that time, an artist called Lil Wayne was so big. So then we just started searching up songs from him, and then as a group of friends, we chose a particular song. But the song had profanity in it, so someone had to change the lyrics. So they're like, okay, fine, you do it. So then I was like, okay, fine, let me just give it a go. I started changing some of the words, trying to make it make sense at the same time. And just in that art of writing, also in relation to poetry, rhyming, it just stuck to me. I thought, wow, this is something great, and let me take it beyond. And yeah, we won that talent show, and we performed to the whole school. So that also gave me a push. And so I started going in that direction of writing to beats and music, and was doing that for several years, making mixtapes, albums. And that's when I read the Bhagavad-gita at the age of 15, and I was so inspired and moved by it. And then a few years later, after reading the Gita, I started to take my practice of spirituality and bhakti more seriously. And then I transitioned more over into poetry and spoken word. I think one thing that a lot of people said to me was that they found rap too fast, the lyrics too fast.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, let me try to do more spoken word, because it can be at a different pace. Not to say that hip hop or rap can't be a bit more slower, but I think the style that I was more attracted to was a bit more fast rap. So so yeah, then I transitioned into poetry and spoken word to
Mm,
express myself and express things I've witnessed in life and how to help others
mm,
get more or move towards more positive energy.
cool, cool. Yeah, I myself, as a teenager, was into like hip hop. Um, so yeah, I myself enjoy poetry as well. I just want to ask everyone in the chat as well, while you're listening in, if maybe you have a lyric from a song or a poem that you remember, please put it in the chat while I just acknowledge some of the people and where they're from. So we've got quite a few people from the USA. So we've got Cindy from Nashville. We've got Yamuna from Los Angeles. Sunita from Austin. And then we've got a few people from Europe, Italy. Welcome. You're all welcome. So yeah, so I'd like to, so if we could just mute, thank you. So yeah, let's get some lyrics because we're talking about poetry before we get into the actual subject matter about the masks that we wear. Ramraj just put sleep is the cousin of death. Wow, yes, I like that one. Mukunda, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, that's a brilliant one. That's interesting because because I know Ramraj very well, and that was brought into a conversation actually from one of
Mm,
our good friends in Chicago,
mm,
and he just shared that lyric,
mm,
and like he says, there's J. Cole there, and I mentioned there was Nas, I believe, who first said it. But yeah, it's a powerful thing. It's like if we're attracted so much to sleep, and if we constantly live in that realm, it's as close as if it's to death. The body's like as if it's lifeless. We're in
mm.
a dream state. We may not be living reality. So
Yeah.
yes, it's interesting, man, for sure. What about you? What do you get from it?
So yeah, I mean, I always go back to the Sanskrit. So like pralaya means like to end or have to dissolve. So at the end of the day, we just kind of dissolve ourselves, and at the end of the millennium, the world kind of dissolves itself according to Vedic thought. So we go into this state of sleep, which is essentially so close to death, and then we reawaken. So yeah, sleep is a cousin of death. I like that. So if anyone else has got any other lyrics or song titles that come to mind, please put them in the chat. We will acknowledge them as well. So Mukunda has also got a stage name of The Child That Forgot. Do you want to tell us how you kind of got into that? You guys can follow him on Instagram as well. Some of his poetry is amazing, and his live poetry also is cool. So just tell us about that, how you went into that realm of poetry, please.
Thanks. Yeah. Um, yeah, the child that forgot. It's more rather than it's for a personal stage name, it's more of a general idea or a movement in one say per se to represent everyone that sometimes we forget our way, and like today's topic, wear certain masks. And because we do that so often, and many masks, it can be layers upon layers, we tend to forget our true nature, our true self, or our path, which is more innate within ourselves. And so the child that forgot is it's as if it's a child that who has forgotten their home, their true nature, as if a child's lost their parents, or in relation to the soul, as in the Gita, mentioned in the Gita, soul connected with the divine. So the child that forgot is it's more poetry, which is lessons I've learned in life, but hopefully that many people can relate to, and in hopes that everyone can find their way back.
Mm, excellent. So I want to get into this subject of masks. Sorry, I'm just on my phone because someone's
Yeah.
asking for the link for this podcast itself.
All right.
Uh, so yeah, I'm intrigued by this idea of masks that we wear. So could you just kind of give us a little bit of insight from what you feel? Why is it that we wear masks, or where does it come from? What do you think?
Yeah, there's so many layers to it actually. Um, there's so many layers as to why we wear masks, how we even put them on, and yeah, I guess we can always look back to the initial source as to why we do it. One thing that comes up, I guess, on initially surface level, it could be for protection. People wear masks for protection, to try to protect themselves. People wear masks because of insecurity, low self-esteem. So there's many different angles we can look at it. But one thing that sticks out, as mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita, is about this element of false ego and what that false ego is.
So yeah, I'd just like to ask anyone in the who's live with us now, what do they think about the masks that we wear? Where does it come from? Why do we wear masks? Or have you ever put a mask on? Or what type of mask do you wear? Like, just give us kind of an idea. My thoughts on it are, there's a functional need for wearing a mask. Like, for example, during the day, I have my job, so I have to put that mask on. I'm a father. Sometimes the kids need a bit of telling off, so I have to put that mask on. And then, husband, son, all these different masks. It's almost like the hats that we wear. But I suppose what's intriguing is about sometimes the mask that we put on. Sometimes maybe we don't need to put on that mask, or something like that. So let's see what some people are saying. So Deepa's put to prevent social judgment. Prashant's put desire. Yeah, so sometimes we put a mask on because we desire to. The intention behind the mask will define its internal effect. Well, that's interesting. That's a deep one. Maybe you can reflect on that, Mukundha. So the intention behind the mask will define its internal effect. You got any insight on that, Mukundha?
Yeah, for sure. From what I get from that is we wear particular masks because of what's actually going on inside of us. Like even the mask, which I feel a lot of people wear sometimes, and we see a lot of images of this. Someone's upset on the inside, but they may be wearing a mask, they're completely smiling. But though they're wearing that mask, because of their behavior, because of, in one sense, they disconnect from the world. Those smiling, you can see actually there's something going on inside. And that's the cause of people wearing particular masks.
Yeah, and I mean it's a well-known phrase now, which is not nice. It's like smiling faces, screaming hearts. We have that, and social media perpetuates that kind of problem. And what are your thoughts on that as an idea? This idea of kind of trying to take pictures to show that, yeah, I'm okay, or I'm making it, or I've achieved something, but actually internally we're not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it's great you bring up social media actually, because I feel, and I'm sure many people will agree, that social media creates a playground of competition. And so therefore we feel we have to, oh, this person's life is like this, they're traveling, they're creating this kind of content which shows how great they are. And I have to do the same because everyone's doing it. And so no one wants to be seen outside of that norm of competition and feel they have to behave in the same way. And so they may put up a mask, and it can break a lot of authenticity in that sense. Not to say that, we can't show those sides to us, because everyone experiences those sides also. They're having a great time, they're connecting with others, and that's fine. But to create a scenario as if that's all that you experience and the only thing you experience doesn't create that authenticity and can add more layers to that mask.
Yeah. I'm gonna put out a few more. So someone's put fear. A few people have said fear. People may have a mask because they may be insecure or not confident about their authentic self. Only when they are content with themselves, that mask will start to tear away. That's a nice way of putting it. Someone's put to conform with social expectations, or someone else has put for social acceptance. We have so many masks for the fear of judgment. So yeah, my idea then goes towards we have these masks for functional reasons, But then when it comes dysfunctional, that's when there's a problem, right? Kind of dysfunctional, we're not being our authentic self. Maybe you said authentic self. What if you want to just expand on this idea of authenticity? You got anything for us?
Yeah, for sure. And again, there's many layers to it as well. Also, we can look at it on the basis of, again, this idea of showing all sides to ourselves, not just what seemingly may be okay, or this persona of making us seem perfect, that we do have struggles. That's authentic self, being honest with others, being honest with ourselves. This is where I struggle. This is where I may fall short in some areas, and I may need help. And we can also look at it on the spiritual aspect, that who are we beyond these masks, really and truly? Who are we beyond this particular body, this particular identity we have in this time and space?
So what is that process? Based on what you've just said, and also what Draupadi said in the chat, it said only when we are content with ourselves that the mask will start to tear away. How is it that we kind of tear away or melt away this mask to start revealing our authentic self? What's that process?
One thing I'd say for sure is the aspect of knowledge. If we aren't aware or understand there is a more deeper and spiritual level of ourselves, then we're always going to be living on this surface level. And I feel another thing is relationships. Relationships are so important. The people we hang around with, we choose to be vulnerable in front of. And I think that's a key thing, vulnerability, because that's what breaks these masks. These false masks which you mentioned, like you said, there's masks we wear or identities we have in order to function in the world with particular roles, particular people. But there's these masks which are so ingrained, which don't do good for us. And it reminds me of this movie. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it, The Mask, Jim Carrey. Yeah, like you can see when he puts on that mask, it becomes so attached to his identity. He becomes the mask, but it's not good for him. It affects his relationship with his partner and so on and so forth. But he gets such a kick out of it. And in the same way, we can be so connected with these false identities, and we may receive an instant gratification or happiness from others from it, but in actuality is destroying who we are and our and our deeper relationship with these other people and the people we already have strong relationships with. So relationships are so important because they can remind us and humble us to see that some of these things we do or say is not close to our authentic self. And so relationships, the knowledge, and spending time with people who really express their authentic self, because we can learn from them how they have done it in the past, and we can hopefully adopt the same techniques to then uncover our masks.
Yeah. So where I work in the medical setting, so there are a lot of young nurses, should we say, and they're always talking about the next date that they're going on and stuff. And this concept of a mask comes up because, say, on the first date, they kind of put on a persona of who they want to show that they are, and then the other person is doing the same. And so the kind of relationship that they're in is almost like two shadows, or the two masks are in a relationship, not the real people.
Yeah.
So yeah, any insight on that sort of concept and what that effect that has on relationships going forward as well?
Yeah. I personally feel, and I guess it's in somewhat relation to social media, as I was mentioning before, that because the way social media plays such a big role in society, we may not be so aware of it because it's become so ingrained in our daily lives, but it plays such a big role in our relationship that we start to live that life on the outside.
Yeah.
That affected life we try to put on social media, portray on social media, we start to live it on beyond social media. So if people are meeting for the first time on a date, they want to show that perfect self to the other person. That could be one aspect, but another aspect could be protection. Someone wants to protect themselves because of, X, Y, and Z. They may have been hurt in the past, so they don't want to go through that again. So they wear their mask. And like you said, that aspect is more functionality based. They want to protect themselves, and it's okay. But I feel, and it's easier said than done. So it does take, time and maturity. But the more we reject others by wearing our masks, the less we accept ourselves. Because those two people coming, ultimately they're rejecting that true, authentic relationship initially. And, they may continue to wear those masks over a period of time. And hopefully it does break down for whatever reasons they were wearing in the first place. But the more we continue to reject people by wearing those masks, what we're really communicating to the world and to others is actually we don't really accept ourselves.
Yeah, acceptance. Yeah. Yeah. Why do we need acceptance, do you think?
That's a really good question. Acceptance. Yeah, because we may not be in connection with our true self, we don't know who we are. So we seek that from everyone else. We seek acceptance that maybe you can define who I am, you know? So that's why we seek it. We seek it externally, and that's why we need to look on the inside and really find out who we are, what's our deeper purpose in life. I was speaking to a friend and we were talking about this aspect of purpose. And when we, live our day-to-day life, as if, we're, I guess one thing that happens a lot is we try to live the week ready for the weekend only, you know? I'm just looking forward to the weekend, and then comes Monday. Oh, it's a drag, and then getting so I'm ready for the weekend. So when we live like that without a deeper purpose, then then it comes to this point of, okay, I'm just going to then find validation or acceptance from everything and everyone else. But when we live with that deeper purpose, because we have looked within, seen where our challenges are, how we can overcome those challenges to get to this point of understanding who we truly are, then it's as if nothing external could then shake that, because you found something deep within. It's like the tortoise who withdraws its limbs within the shell. When he does that, he's protected by his shell. He or she is protected by his shell, so nothing can affect the tortoise. But the more the tortoise were to abandon its shell, not knowing that's its protection, he's just going to be constantly worried about the external world and what goes on the outside.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that we've essentially got to have a group of people that we're connected to that we can be vulnerable with. And then it's okay to wear a mask while we're out in the world functioning, or meeting people and stuff like that. Would you say that's fair to kind of balance the
Yeah,
idea?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I guess I'd say it more so. See, we can show our authentic self. We can be authentic to everyone, to the whole world, really. But it's how much we give to particular people, not only for our protection, but their protection as well, because sometimes people could become too familiar too quickly, and they may step over thresholds, and then it's just going to damage the whole relationship initially, and so on and so forth. So it's more of that we can be authentic, we can share how we feel to others, but how much we share, it's dependent on how close we are to someone.
Cool. I'm going to throw a curveball question at everyone, and yourself as well, Mukundha. And because we're wisdom podcast, we're a spiritual podcast, so we have this, at least in theory, an idea of God, a belief in God. So I'm going to ask everyone to either, for a moment, believe that there is some sort of higher power, or suspend your disbelief. And then I'm going to ask the question, if God exists, then does God wear masks? So I'm going to give a few moments just for people to have a think about that. So if God does exist, then does God wear masks? And we'll see what anyone thinks. And then Mukundha, I'll let you have a little thought about that as well. It's a bit of a curveball question, because I know we think about ourselves, and I want to touch on the ego as well, and what the Bhagavad-gita says about ego. Okay, so Elaine has put, only if it's functional. Each religion is a mask of God, for instance. Yorick and James have put no. Sneh has put, yes, God exists and God does wear a mask. Okay, yes, I do think God wears masks and presents to us in different ways. Yamun has put no, why would he? He's the most authentic person. And then Deepak's put, yes, Lord Krishna wore masks as Kanaya. And someone's put, God should be transparent. Yeah, so a few different ideas there. Bit of a curveball question, bit of a tricky question, and yeah, very different answers. Mukundha, what are your thoughts on this concept of maybe God wearing masks?
Yeah, for sure. That's honestly a really, really, really good question, because the way the Bhagavad-gita or the Vedic texts explains God is as a person. He's a personality, not person as in human, but he has a personality. And so I feel from the responses on the chat, it's how we define masks, really. That's why we got such a mixed result. Some people saying yes, some people saying no, because for example, no, because God is the most authentic person, so why would he need to wear a mask? He's the most, God should be transparent, as Hannah mentioned. It's a good point. It makes sense. I feel from what I've learned from my teachers and friends and from the Bhagavad Gita itself, it's more so, if we were to identify masks, it's more on the basis of how much do we reveal of ourselves, or how much is God revealing himself? Because as it's described that in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, Krishna mentions he loves everyone. And if that's the basis, why are some people feeling that love and some aren't? And when we come to this aspect of personality, it involves a relationship, not just a one-way relationship. It's a two-way street. So just as you're mentioning, if God exists, just as we put endeavor into that relationship, so too does God. And so if, for example, someone is against God, someone is upset and angry at God for some reason, then it's fair to say, as a personality, they may not be so open, just because because the other person's not so open. And on the other hand, if someone is open to receive that love, then it's more accessible for them because they've opened themselves. But if someone doesn't want to receive it, then it doesn't mean that God leaves. God's love is still there, but it may just be masked in a particular way for that person at that particular time, because they don't want to receive that love in that moment. Because it's like, for example, a child. I remember when I was young, bless my mom, she had a tough time. I used to get angry and upset when I was really young. And because I was in that state, it's not that every time my mom would constantly try to hug me, because the more she would do that, the more I'd get more frustrated, you know? But it doesn't mean that she stopped loving me just because she didn't physically hug me in that moment. She understood at that time, okay, he needs a space to calm down and So she just took, she was around, but she just took a step back in that moment to understand that, okay, this me being like the motherly figure to hug him is not going to actually help him in this moment. So in the same way, God does the same thing. God's love is everywhere, but it may just be masked in a particular way because we may not be ready to receive it. And we may take advantage of it also. Just because God loves me, I'm going to behave however I want. And so it is a two-way street. If God's giving his love, we have to give our love back and, connect properly.
Wow, yeah. The reason why this kind of question came to mind was that once I was speaking to a very spiritual person, and they were saying that actually between us and God, there are two veils, which we can say are like masks or two curtains. And actually, we have to work towards opening our curtain to kind of approach God. And then we have to kind of wait for grace or mercy for that second curtain to open. So I feel like our work is something to do with the ego. So on our side, shedding that mask, those false identities. So if you could, just to kind of bring this full circle, then what does the Vedic teaching or the Bhagavad-gita say about ego? Like, what is it called? Why do we have it? What are the trappings of it? And how do we dissolve it? How do we open that veil, that mask, so that we have that relationship with God? Please.
Yeah, that's a really good question also. Yeah, so the Vedic term is ahankar, which doesn't just mean ego, but false ego. So ego just on its own means like identity or I. So there is a real ego, but there's also a false ego. And so the Vedic scriptures explain how this false ego is identifying with that which is not who we are. So for example, the Bhagavad Gita talks about the first lessons that were taught to Arjun is that we're not this body. We identify so much with this body and have firm belief, this is who I am, this body is me. And then everything else comes along with it, whether that's the identity of nationality, the country, the skin color that these bodies that have, our height, our sexual orientation, our age. There's just so many layers that are linked to this body that if we identify with the body, we identify with those things. And because of that, it creates so much disturbance in the world because then this person thinks they're better than me, or I think I'm better than someone else because I'm taller than them, because I'm more muscular than them, because I'm younger, and I got they're better than me because I got really scruffy hair. The more we identify with the things which we're not, the more we identify with all of the things attached to it. And so those layer gets deeper and deeper, and we start to believe more and more with that. And then it goes even further than that with the mind. So the scriptures and the Bhagavad Gita particularly explains there's this one identity of the body made up of the five elements. And there's also a subtle body, which is made up of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And so then we start identifying with the mind. But we know we're also not the mind because sometimes it takes us here and there. But if it's taking us here and there, that means we're not the mind because it's taking us here and there. So that it is the mind, and then the intelligence is there to discern what's good and what's not so good for us. But yeah, this false ego, ahankar, is basically the identity of who we aren't truly. It's just it's the identification with the temporary. We know these bodies are temporary, may be here for 100 years or even less. But what was before you know, this body? What's happening after that? This body is important. And just before I end, I just wanted to bring up this point you mentioned about these two veils, because I've heard something which has really stuck to me, and it's so beautiful. It's like poetry, the way it was said. Um, it's saying that, so these two veils, like you said, represents our endeavor, and it also represents God's mercy or his grace, God's grace. And it's the way it was said was that in God's eyes, he's looking for our endeavor. God's looking for our endeavor. But within God's heart is mercy. That's all God wants to give. But in our eyes, we're looking for mercy. But in our heart should be the endeavor. That's all we want to give. So it's like this opposite exchange that we want to give, which breaks down those two curtains.
Wow. Yes, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah. So we need endeavor. I mean, this is sometimes the spiritual misunderstanding is that we've got to give up everything. But actually, there's a lot of work, a lot of inner work, as you've been describing, about kind of separating the mind and the intellect and the false ego. Sometimes I like thinking of the false ego as like an emulsifier. So it's like you have two things that don't mix, like oil and water, and an emulsifier helps mix them together. So the soul is eternal and the material world is temporary. And actually, they don't mix. So it's the use of the ego, which is the illusion, that emulsifies the soul and the material elements to make us think, I am this body, I am Balaram, I am bald with a beard, it's going grey. So it kind of gets us entangled, it emulsifies us into that. So we need something that reverses that progress. Yeah, cool. So we've got about 7 minutes left. I wanted to just ask everyone, what is one thing that they would take away from today's discussion? Something that you would put on a post-it note and go, yes, I like that. I want to highlight that. I want to remember that. Just please type that in while I just look back at some of the other questions. Mukundha, if you've got any other thoughts, please share.
Yeah, I like this point you bring about illusion. And it's just like the actor, right? An actor puts on a mask on stage. And I'm sure we've heard this example many times. But if not, if you all haven't, it's this an actor puts on a particular mask, not physically on stage, they behave as somebody else. But it's an illusion, right? Because that's not who they are. They may have a family and so on and so forth, and then they behave different on off stage. But if they were to take that character and role off stage, then we think, okay, is something wrong with them? That's not who you are. You were just doing that on in theater. So in the same way, we go to the level deeper that in the same way, the Bhagavad-gita teaches us that we are all spiritual beings at the core. And there's this famous saying, I'm not sure who it was by, but I'm sure, I think you may know, I think you might know what I'm going to say. But it's not that we're human beings having a spiritual experience, but we're spiritual beings. We're just currently having a human experience in this moment of time.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly heard Radhanath Swami say that. I don't know whether he's quoting someone else, but yeah. Undoing that and, working out and even seeing that, being able to see that. I like the idea of kind of staying in character when you don't need to. It's like that. It's quite a funny concept, isn't it? So I'm going to read out some things that people have highlighted. Prashant's put sleep as a cousin of death, straight in there with, originally it's Nas, and then yes, J. Cole. Taking the layers off the veil, Snare has said, love of each other, Yorick and James. The more we identify ourselves with the different things we are doing, then we'll miss connecting with the real thing, Yamuna said. Yeah, and this is this Sanskrit word ahankar. Aham means I am, and kar is what I do. So it's this misidentification is I am what I do. But it's not I am what I do. I am who I am. So it's almost like we get trapped in what we're doing and we think that is our identity. Deepak has put, do not act. Yes, that's it. Stop acting. Mother's put, be aware about our mask and not identify with them. And then Mita's put, it's okay to wear a mask as long as you take it off with your inner circle. Yeah, you're in that safe space. We need to have a sacred space where we can be our true, authentic self. Yeah, like you said, we can be authentic with people, but how much of ourselves we reveal is dependent on how close we are with them. So that's fantastic. I didn't actually say at the beginning, sorry, Mukunda, you actually do the content development for Vani School. Yeah, if you just tell us a little bit about Vani, online, what you do and your role there, and yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Yeah, so Vani School's a platform which provides high quality courses in yoga, Ayurveda, and even spiritual wisdom. And so I'm a content manager for Vani, dealing with the social media and also software engineer for the web design part of Vani. And it's interesting this podcast come up, Think Gita, giving knowledge from the Bhagavad-gita, because we've just released, or will be releasing actually, a brand new course. It's called the Gita Love, Wisdom, and Success. And it's going to be launching on the 1st of April, so very, very soon. I believe that's Tuesday or
Yeah, I
Monday.
think that's probably Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I'll do, I'll just put it on the group chat. I'll put a link to the landing page for you all to visit. You can get more details about the course. It's from a great friend. His name's Dal Garanga. He's in New York and he's created this course for Vani, and it's honestly, it is phenomenal. I'm not being biased because I'm the content manager at Vani, but I watched it myself and I was blown away. It's basically broken down into several modules, this course, and it talks about the summary of the different verses in the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about how you can apply that knowledge to your life, some self-reflection as well, and then putting all of that into practice in the real world. And it's great. It talks about these aspects of the masks, actually. It does, and how we can remove those masks better as we go through our days. So it can become more easier sooner rather than later to become our authentic self. But I just pop it
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Yeah,
Well, I
so
wanted to do something just to make sure that everyone on this chat is connected. So we are connected afterwards. I'm just going to plug a few things from Think Gita as well. So I'll just make a few little announcements. We have we're in our third year now of what's called Gita circles. So people who have done the kind of initial course at the beginning of the year, we invite people to then join a circle in small groups. We study the Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter all throughout the year. So we're on the third year of doing that. So that the new cohort, the third cohort, starts in April. So please message on the Think Gita community if you want to get involved in that. So there is that. That's one thing. On Thursday, the 4th of April, we have we're going to say IRL, in real life, in-person event, which is journaling wisdom with a monk. So His Grace Vraj Bihari Das. So look out for that. That is on the 4th of April. And then we have a Think Gita weekend retreat. So there's an early bird extended offer on that. That is Friday the 12th to Sunday the 14th of July. And that's in Staffordshire. And that is, so SBK Swami will be there and the whole Think Gita team as well. So yeah, certainly plug into Vani School and these other things that we've got going on with Think Gita. What I wanted to do actually, for those people who are happy to put their cameras on, I wanted to do some sort of gallery view and maybe take a photo. Where are we? There you go. We've got a few. And so I'm assuming that if you've got your camera on, you're okay with a photo being taken. And if you're not, then turn your camera off. And if we can, everyone can take a photo if they want to. And then if you're on Instagram, then please connect with Think Gita. My name on Instagram is Ink Stains for Your Brain. And yours, Mukunda, on Instagram, please.
You can follow my poetry account, spoken word account called The Child That Forgot. Hope you don't forget.
So The Child That Forgot, Ink Stains for Your Brain, and Think Gita. I'm going to take a little photo here, and I'm going to put it on my story straight away. And Mukunda, you can do something. And everyone just do the same. We just tag each other and just let everyone know that we are having this lovely conversation. So I'm going to just give a little smile. Yeah. Okay. A little countdown. Everyone can smile. That's it. Very good. 3, 2, 1. That's it. Oh, there you go. He's got the AI going on. Fine, cool. Okay, so if anyone has any, how long we've got a few minutes left. I'm happy to stay for a little while. Mukunda, you okay to stay for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure.
So Sarah's asking, so who do you have to message? So if whoever you got your Think Gita login from, so there's a WhatsApp group which has got the Think Gita community. Otherwise, just go on to, I'm going to put it on here, so I've got it in the chat. Meeting. So we've got Think Gita. If you just message on Instagram, that's what you just need to do. And then I am Ink Stains. And then we've got The Child. I forgot. Please tell us about that. The Child That Forgot, Mukunda. Please tell us about that before we leave.
Yeah, so I make poetry and spoken word videos, which are on YouTube. Again, if you go through the Instagram page, and you'll be able to see the YouTube account. But I also was doing some shows in and around of London as well, and also be making short films as well, which I have thought of the idea of naming them visual scriptures. So they're just like small films with pockets of knowledge that we can all take away in our lives, done more creatively. Yeah, but also follow Vani School as well on Instagram if you're not, and yeah, and then connect more with the Gita that way as well.
Okay, has anyone got any final comments, questions? Let's see the chat.
Yeah, if there's questions, that'll be fun. Maybe Balaram, you can answer some of them as well.
I'll see. Any questions or comments, guys? Let's see. Just want to make sure no one's put it in the Q&A section as well. Yeah. Oh, I've got one message came through from Deepa. We wear a mask because we don't know who we are, and we accept our identity from others. If we understand that we are spiritual beings, then we don't need a mask. Well, okay. That's a nice one to end on. Okay, so I will take everyone's leave now because I think everyone seems satisfied. I hope you enjoyed tonight's session on the mask we wear, relationships and authenticity. And I wish you well in your journey of dissolving the masks that are unnecessary. And yeah, Mukunda, any final words before we go?
No, I just want to thank you all for having me, and yeah, let's connect more. And I think one point that I brought up was association. The more we associate with our loved ones and those who care for us, the more we can easily remove these masks. So try your best to not be afraid to reach out to those and show that vulnerability, because it's so important. It can be scary for sure. Even myself, I used to put up a lot of veils, a lot of masks, and try to guard myself, but I realized that the only way to break down the wall is someone else on the other side helping me remove the bricks, because I can't just do it all on my own. So yeah, try to connect with others as much as you can. And yeah, let's all find our way back home on this spiritual journey.
Yeah, wicked. And hopefully we hear some poetry from you next time.
Yeah, maybe so. Together, that'd be good.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Let me know.
Okay, thank you to everyone. Take care. Thank you. Thanks for everyone saying thank you in the chat. Okay, take care. Good night.